Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. I'm here to deliver your training on Snowflake developer as well as Snowflake admin. So I'm having overall 9 years of IT experience. So in that I'm having 3+ years of experience into Snowflake developer as well as Snowflake admin. So I'm currently working with Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India Private Limited. So today we will discuss about why everyone is looking for Snowflake and what are the challenges current industries are facing till today. So I'll just go through the uh, painting. So we will discuss few of the things which you guys are already aware. Like if any organization is looking for hardware setup, the first thing is we need CPU and the memory and storage cost. So this storage cost is defined based on the volume of the data which is handling by the current organization and connectivity. And the next thing is so landscape setup, which means separate separate server for development, quality, and production. And the third one is software installation. Good morning. And I think, could you please mute? Someone is talking. Upgrade activities. And fourth one is backup server. In case any disaster happens, then we need a backup server, right? And the fifth one is security server or the firewall servers for data protection. So we know everyone, we all know nowadays data is very highly confidential. So every company need the firewall server, separate firewall server for data protection. And the sixth point is management and maintenance. And the last one is troubleshooting. These are the challenges the current companies, current organizations are facing. In case if any disasters happens, then it is really difficult for the organization to take the backup. For that, they need a separate backup server, right? And in case if there is any installation, software upgradation, patch updation, version upgradation is happening, then the live system should be down at least for 1 day, 1 to 2 days. So till those days, whatever the live data is happening, that will be maintained in third parties system, and later once the upgrade and patch activities are done, then they will load it into live system. And coming to the security perspective, in case if any cyber securities is happens, and there should be a dedicated team where they has to scan or troubleshooting all the data, correct? So here the main the current organization, they are facing a lot of issues, hardware setup. So and the maintenance cost is very huge. So let's take an example. If any company is looking for the hardware setup, they has to spend some millions of USD or euros So for example, if the company is the enterprise organizations, when I say enterprise organization, their turnover, it would be minimum more than 1,000 crores per month. So those we will call it as enterprise organizations. So for those enterprise organization, the data volume is very huge, and also the security, the activity which they want to perform, the maintenance management cost also is very huge. Correct. So, and data. Here we always 24/7 people has to work on backupping the data and the firewall managing and maintenance activities they has to work. So to overcome this problem, Snowflake introduced and it was a kind of revolutions in the current industries, and Snowflake take over all the things. For Snowflake, we don't need hardware setup, we don't need any software installation, we don't need any upgradation, patch updation. So this is Snowflake is completely cloud data warehouse platform built completely on top of public cloud platforms. So when I say public cloud platforms, AWS and Azure, and the third one is GCP. So these three are public cloud platforms. So as of today, Snowflake allowed only these three cloud platforms. It is completely on cloud data warehouse platform, and it will enable the data storage, processing, analytic solutions that are faster, easier to use, and far more better flexible in traditional offering. So traditional databases, I can say like Oracle, centralized database, hierarchical databases, network databases, relational databases, NoSQL databases. These are our traditional databases. Okay, and it is completely true software as a service. There is no hardware for us and software for us to select and configure and manage. All ongoing management, maintenance, and tuning is completely handled by Snowflake. So you may get doubt what about the backup and the security and the management activity. So here in Snowflake, for example, if you are trying to deleting or updating whatever the data, whatever the operations which you are performing on Snowflake, Snowflake itself automatically takes the backups of the data. So we don't need to worry about the data backups. And coming to the security perspective, Snowflake, whatever the data it is storing in Snowflake data warehouse is completely end-to-end encrypted. Whatever the softwares available in the latest versions available in the current market, that will give us with free of cost. And any hackers want to hack one sentence of line, for them it takes 3 months time. So every minute the encryption model will change frequently. Every minute it will get changed, and it is highly 100%. I'm very sure on that security perspective. It is completely 100% secure. No one can hack the data from Snowflake, especially from the cloud platforms. And the management and maintenance activity here, the company will save a huge volume of amount comparing to the traditional databases like any Oracle databases. Whatever the amount they are spending, and the team, there should be a dedicated team where they has to take the backups of the server's data and the firewall server for data protection. So this dedicated team is not at all required for clouds, especially in Snowflake. So Snowflake is a kind of tool. So if you, Snowflake is the services which will be using either AWS or Azure or GCP. In case if I hosted a Snowflake on AWS, then my complete data it will get stored and processed in Snowflake in AWS. and the data which is stored in AWS S3 by Snowflake service is encrypted and security is managed by Snowflake only. In case if I choose Azure, it will use Azure resources to store the data and process the data. In case if I use Google GCP, then it will use Google GCP resources to store the data and process the data. So here you may get doubt. So is it possible to host two cloud platform in single warehouse? In we can take a different Snowflake accounts. At a time, we cannot host two Snowflake. One Snowflake account cannot manage the two cloud platforms. We can take two licenses. One Snowflake license will be hosted on AWS, and another license one we can be hosted on Azure. I'll show you how we can set up a Snowflake environment and how we can choose the cloud platforms, so that you will be very clear on that. Okay. So this is the point of contact. If anyone having any queries, so you can reach out to this number. So you will get more information on training related information. Okay, so this is Snowflake is a kind of revolution in the current market, and it is slowly started in India hardly from 3 years onwards. So now it is slowly every organization is looking for Snowflake. So we will discuss what are the key features and what are the advantages why every organization is looking for Snowflake side, which is completely cloud platform. Okay, so this is the traditional database. Give me a minute. Is looking for and following this architecture. So for any of the hardware set, any of the softwares, whatever till today the existing organizations they are following, they need 100% hardware setup. Without hardware setup, they can't process anything. So once the hardware setup is ready, then only they can install the softwares. Software in the sense which database they has to go ahead. So either hierarchical database or network database or object oriented database or relational database or centralized database, whatever it is, whichever the database is convenient for the current organizations, they will look for it. Okay, so here as we discussed earlier, the drawbacks here is it is really difficult to manage and maintenance all the activities, and in case if any disasters happens in the live system, then always 24/7 people has to work on backup servers. So any operation, any activity which is performing in the live system, that has to be take a copy of the it is happening in the current system, then they has to fix it as soon as possible. So you guys also hearing many news from many of the industries nowadays. Hacking is a very big deal, and it is really difficult for every organization to manage the cybers. Okay, so to overcome this all the things, the Snowflake is providing the awesomeness of the features which is not available in the current market till today. So we don't have to worry about the data backups, and we don't have to worry about software installation, backup servers, nothing. And in the traditional database, if the board members or the above CEOs or whoever it is requesting for the past historical data, then it is really difficult for any of the database to pull all the historical data. Like some trillions and billions of the data, it is really difficult to fetch the data from the databases, and it will take some 2 to 3 days time, and the amount which is charged by the traditional databases was very huge. And comparing to the cost wise, Snowflake is charging very minimal amount, very minimal amount it is charging by the Snowflake. And here, and one more thing is, if you compare to any of the database, let's take an example, everyone aware of the Oracle. Oracle is the, everyone may get an idea how the Oracle is revolution in the market in earlier days. So nowadays the Oracle data is completely is going slow down. Every organization is not completely utilizing the Oracle. So everyone is looking for a Snowflake. So the main advantages when you compare to Snowflake and other databases is, the first one is workload. And the workload is very transparent and it is very easy to manage in Snowflake. But in Oracle, other databases, it is really difficult to manage and workload the data. And the deployment is the completely on-premise in the sense, so we need 100% hardware setup, and the storage capacity is should be required. If the storage capacity is not sufficient, then we may get out of memory issues. In that case, the organization, they has to spend some millions of billions of amount on the hardware setup and the storage cost. Okay, and compared to the cloud, you will never get out of memory issues. So we pay what we use. And coming to the cost per user, the cost per the user is fixed in other databases. It doesn't matter whether the user is utilized by the organization or not. For example, I'm a new joinee to any one organization and my ID is created in the databases. But I have never logged in, I have never worked any single thing in the databases. But still I will be charged for every year, and renewal time also my cost will increase it. But in Snowflake, it's not like that. So the user is utilizing the data, accordingly Snowflake will charge. Okay, and the automatic scaling up and scaling down functionality is not at all available in any of the databases till today, except Snowflake. Which means automatic scaling up functionality means, if you are running a query or if you want to view the trillions of data, we need high processor configuration and high RAM. Then only the outcome will become bit faster. But in organization, it is really difficult for the organization. In between, they has to increase the processor. You guys all aware, right? The processor is the heart for the hardware setup. That will be charged more. Okay, so, and it is really difficult in between for the organization to increase their processor and RAM they can increase it. The processor, it is really difficult for them to increase it. So these cases, how the current organization still they are following is, some portion of the data they will execute it, and they will split the data and they will execute it accordingly. Could you please mute guys? Yeah, thank you. Okay, and here in Snowflake we have a concept called auto scaling up and down functionality, which means based on the volume of the data we can increase the virtual warehouse processor sizes. So the sizes will come in t-shirt size format, like extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, etc. Okay, it is easy to manage also. So based on the volume of the data which we are working, Snowflake will charge accordingly. And the installation. So other databases, we require hardware and operating system along with the other features they has to install, and every year they has to upgrade to latest versions. But Snowflake, it's not at all required. So everything is completely handled by clouds only. And coming to the upgrade and patches. So in other databases, we need upgrade during the upgrade time. The live system should be down at least for one day. So based on the enterprise organization and based on the critical and the volume of the data which is handling, accordingly the downtime will schedule it. So during that time, no one can able to access the live system. So you may get doubt till the time whatever the data which is generated by the organization, where they will maintain. They will maintain in a third party tools like Excel or whatever it is, or Notepad. They will maintain the data, and after that, once the upgrade activity is done, which means once the live system is available, later part they will inject this data to the live system. But in Snowflake, we will never get upgrade or patching activities, which is completely handled by cloud only. So if there is any upgrade will happens, so there will be a button in the right side, upgrade button. So once you click upgrade, then within a fraction of less than half an hour, the complete update activity will be done. So in between, if you want to perform any operations or loading unloading activity, you can do it. So there is no downtime here. And management. So other databases management and maintenance is required, which means the data backup and the security. So and the admin people, they require to manage the data in other databases. But in Snowflake, it will be almost zero only. And the partitioning. So the data, for example, if I'm having some 10 billions of data and I want to load it to any other databases, it will take a number of days. So it dependent on which database the organization is using. And it is really difficult for the data which we are trying to loading, and we have to manually partitioning and sub-partitioning the data in any of the databases. But in Snowflake, so you can load 10 billions of data at a time. And trust me, it will not take more than 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, we can load a bulk amount of data. So if I'm loading like 500 GB of data, if I'm trying to loading to any of the traditional databases, then this exact 500 GB of data, it will get loaded into Snowflake database in traditional databases, which means here there is no compression techniques. But in Snowflake, so if I upload 500 GB of data, so once the file will get loaded into Snowflake, that will be compressed into hardly 50 GB or something like that. So the compression technique will apply and the partitioning will apply automatically, and the data, it will be stored in a columnar format. And while once the data get loaded, the data, it will be completely end-to-end encrypted format will in a format will get stored. So any operation, any activity which you are performing, everything will get recorded in Snowflake. And it is easy. And there is another feature called in Snowflake like a time travel feature. So you may heard, right? So many of the movies, time traveling concept, they make many movies, right? So they travel back to past years, and they are trying to correcting something. So but still it's not possible, right? But in Snowflake, so the last we can travel back up to 90 days past. So last 3 months data, last 3 months back or last 2 months back, whatever the activity which you performed, like I performed wrong operations on tables, I should not supposed to delete those records. So I didn't realize during that time. So after a month, after 2 months, I have realized I should not supposed to delete that. So then how you can take the backup? So we have a concept called time travel in Snowflake. So by using the time travel, we can travel back how many days you want, till maximum 90 days we can travel back. Okay, so we can get all the data, whatever the operations or we performed on that day, so that we can pull back. So what will happen after 90 days? So still that data we can get it up to 365 days past data we can pull it back. But after 90 days it is our control. Before 90 days it is our control. After crossing 90 days past data, that will be automatically get stored in fail safe zone. So those data, if you want to collect it, then we have to contact the Snowflake support team to get the data. Okay, any questions here so far? No question? Okay, good. And this is the Snowflake designed and how it is work. Snowflake helps organizations to collect more data than ever before. So there is no restrictions here. We can handle a huge volume of data. So it is very easy to handle to everyone. Our Snowflake Cloud Platform is capable of running any workload and enable a secure and governed access to all, and leverage the performance and scalable and monitor and process we needed. So and all easy to deliver as a services. So as I said, this is a kind of services. So it's a mandatory whenever we are trying to creating a Snowflake account. Either we should be hosted on Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. Anyone we have to choose it. It's a mandatory. Okay, so this is the 5 key benefits. So it is completely work and designed by using SQL database. So it is completely zero, almost zero management, and any type of data we can easily manage it here. And coming to the user's perspective, it is not 100% required the person who is trying to connecting to Snowflake, that person need Snowflake account. No. So the consumers, which means the end user, the consumers who doesn't having a Snowflake account, so still they can access the data. Uh, Provide the access to the consumers who doesn't having a Snowflake account. So we can pay what you use it. So if the ID is created in Snowflake and you are not utilizing that ID, then Snowflake will not charge anything for that. Okay, so if you take any example of Oracle or SAP will charge very huge per user. So nowadays the SAP is charging per user cost is around close to 3 lakhs in Indian currency. It doesn't matter for the SAP whether that user is utilized in the organization or not. So every year renewal cost will increase it. But in Snowflake, when you compare to any traditional databases, the amount which is charged by the Snowflake is very, very minimal amount. Okay, so this is one platform we can load many workloads, and the performance and the scale wise, as I said, so if some X person is working on some trillions of data, they can go ahead for auto scaling up functionality, which means they can choose the higher processor, big processor they can choose. And who is working on a small amount of data, they can choose smaller warehouse. And coming to the data security perspective, it is completely data is end-to-end encrypted format, and it is 100% safe. No one can hack this data. So you may get doubt, so what will happen if the Snowflake will disaster? So some X reasons Snowflake completely disaster. So how my data will be secured? So our data will be 100% secure if the Snowflake is hosted on AWS. Then in Snowflake data warehouse itself is a disaster, then we can recover 100% data from AWS. Okay, and the maintenance cost is completely zero. So we will never get out of memory issues, and the maintenance cost is completely zero, and data backup is completely handled by Snowflake only. Automatically, Snowflake itself takes the backups of the data. So if you are performing any activity like data unloading, any operations like DML operations, like delete, insert, update operations, everything Snowflake will takes the backups of the data. So we don't need to worry about that. And this is just a brief explanation about Snowflake when it was launched in India in the market, and uh, how it is and what basis it is running. As I said, right, AWS and Azure and Google GCP. So yeah. So AWS, it was launched in 2014, and if you ask me, so which is the best cloud platform in the throughout the worldwide, Snowflake is the best cloud platform, and that AWS almost many of the companies are started utilizing. But as compared to AWS S3, Microsoft Azure is the giving more features better than AWS S3. Now slowly the companies are start slowly utilizing Snowflake with Azure and Snowflake with AWS. And Google GCP, still the markets are not understanding their environment setup, how they are tie-upping with the Snowflake. So we will try and AWS and Azure, and how we will connect to AWS or Microsoft Azure, how we can load the data and how we can unload the data, all the basic thing, and how we can derive the roles and how the connection setup will happen, how we can create an account. So everything we will teach you. So don't worry. So as I said, we don't need any high configuration laptops. The basic laptop is sufficient for us, because this is completely 100% running on cloud platforms. So we don't need any physical hardware setup, which means the high configuration laptops is not at all required. Basic thing is required. So we can run on Mac or OS, Mac OS or Windows, Linux, Unix, any of this. The traditional database was launched with the shared disk, and later there are many issues in shared disk, and they overcome with shared disk, and they launched with shared nothing architecture. So whatever the problems we are facing till today in traditional databases, we are 100% overcome with those features, and Snowflake will giving more features in top of that. Okay, so this is how the data injection will happens from any of these third party data sources to how the here external staging areas are something like AWS S3, Azure, GCS. These are we will call it as external stages. So there will be a dedicated team, which means the ETL developers, they will extract the data and they will load it into AWS. So as a Snowflake developer, our involvement will be appears from AWS, which means external staging area, to till Snowflake. So we can load or unloading the data. So here we don't need to manually doing anything, partitioning, micro partitioning, compression techniques, data stored in a columnar format. So this not at all required to handle anything. So it is what we have to do is we will load the data to Snowflake data warehouse. So Snowflake will completely take care how the data will load it and how the partitioning and the compression techniques automatically Snowflake will take care. Okay, so here this is a table streams and tasks. So as I said, we can set the time based on the time the data it will automatically get loaded. So whatever the operations which is performed on a specific table on Snowflake data warehouse, and you want to track those operations, who performed, when performed, what kind of data, what kind of operations which he trying to managing. So those all operations we can track with the help of table streams. So we will teach you each and everything, so don't worry. And this is the zero maintenance, so which means not at all required for infrastructure and security. It is completely highly security. And here you may get a doubt. So traditional databases having a concept called primary key, foreign key indexes. But here in Snowflake, there is no concept of primary key, foreign key indexes. Then how the data it will get stored in Snowflake, and how and what basis and which order wise the data it will get inserted, and if you want to view the data or if you want to trying to querying the data, how the data it will be displayed it. So that we will discuss in detail. And the file formats, the formats is completely handled by structured and semi-structured file formats only support. So like structured data, something like CSV file formats, and semi-structured data like XML, JSON, Parquet, AVRO, and OCR. So these file formats only Snowflake will support it. Okay, so we will discuss how we can the handling of the file formats is different. So CSV file formats we can directly load into Snowflake, but XML, JSON, and Parquet file formats handling is bit different. So I will every day I will give you the notes and I will show you the practical, so that you guys will be very clear on that. So in terms of the cost wise, the traditional database, the cost which is fixed per the user, the amount, the volume of the data which is working by the person is accordingly traditional databases will charge it. So for example, in other databases, 1 terabyte of data they may charge $10,000. So in the cloud data warehouses, which means without Snowflake, so I'm talking about pure cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, or Google GCP. For 1 TB of the data, they may charge $1,000. But if the organization is using a Snowflake cloud data warehouse, then for 1 TB of the data, they may charge hardly 400 below dollars amount only they will charge. You just imagine, I'm just giving an example of for 1 TB. So if you take large scale industries, their the historical data which is maintained by the large scale industries was very huge. So if they want to spend some billions of amount. So that amount, instead of spending at a time billions amount on any of these cloud data, traditional databases, they can invest 10% amount on Snowflake. That is more than sufficient. Remaining 90% of the amount, whichever they will be saving that amount, and that organization they may invest in other sectors also. So that's why everyone is looking for Snowflake. Okay, this is the architecture, Snowflake architecture, database storage and query processing and cloud services. So database storage, something like all data, it will be all data and query results will get stored in data storage. If I hosted a Snowflake on AWS, hence the data and query result will get stored in AWS S3 bucket. The query processing layer is, as I said, the processor sizes will start from t-shirt sizes, right? Like extra small, small, medium, large, etc. So here the query processing layer, what it will do is, based on the volume of the data, Snowflake automatically it will spin up the virtual warehouse sizes and it will work accordingly. And the cloud services layer is something like it's collection of services. It will manage the query processing, and it will manage authentication and access control, security, transaction, metadata, and query optimization. Everything will be handled in cloud services layer. So in the terms of the security perspective, so these are the security which is provided by Snowflake. So as I said, in terms of the security perspective, it is completely 100% secure on Snowflake. So initially, before coming, before launching Snowflake, so every organization they had not clear picture about how the cloud platforms and how my data is secure in clouds. So nowadays, every organization, the Snowflake architecture and how they are tie-upping with the public cloud platforms, their hierarchy and designing environment setup is pretty much clear to every organization, and every organization is looking to Snowflake side, because in terms of the cost wise, management wise, and it is completely zero when you compare to other traditional databases. So that's why every organization is looking for Snowflake side. And maintenance management activity is very, very minimal in Snowflake. Okay, so this is the one platform we can connect a number of people, whoever want to get the data or historical data, like if you take any automobile industry, so last 5 years, how their revenue and wherever the drawbacks is happens, how they will get to know is by looking at the historical data. The people will get to know where is the problems and how they can fix it. So nowadays, every authorized company, they are announcing my next quarter will be this is the amount we are expecting. So the next year, so we will be in this position. So how they will reveal their revenue is, their business is because of the historical data. By looking at the historical data, they will look or they will predict the future. So how their business will be in the next quarter or next year or next 5 years. So the everything they can be handled from here, because this is the place where they will maintain all the data. And any data engineers, any data application people, data scientist people, everyone can connect it here and they can perform whatever and however they want it. Okay, anyone having any questions so far? I'll try to answer your questions if anyone having any questions. So whoever doesn't having SQL or PL SQL experience, or who doesn't having PL or SQL knowledge, difficult, it can easily understand. And for who doesn't having knowledge on this PL SQL area, I'm requesting those people, you just go to YouTube, SQL or PL SQL for beginners, so you will get a number of videos. So I think 1 or 2 days is sufficient for you to understand the queries. Okay. And I'm sharing the course content, so we will go through quickly.
Some people asking for Python script, Python script, right? How we integrate with
Yeah, so there are many ways to connect to Snowflake, like SnowSQL, which means the command line interface. You can connect, and JDBC, ODBC, and web user interface, and Python libraries. So these are the possible ways to connect to Snowflake.
Is there any requirement of learn Python and
it is purely dependent on organization. If the organization, so whatever the data which you are trying to loading into Snowflake environment, and you may get doubt how the data cleaning, data cleansing will happen. So if the organization is okay to do data cleaning, data cleansing activity in Snowflake, then it is well and good. And if they don't want to do this cleansing activity in Snowflake, then they can go ahead with Python. Python is the best one for data cleaning and data cleansing for Snowflake. But most of the cases, data cleaning, data cleansing will do in Snowflake environment only. Yeah, so one major advantage in Python is it is completely open source software. So the cost is very, very less.
So is there any expense changes are there when compared to if we run same query in Python? Is there any change
In Python, we cannot run a queries. I mean, data cleaning, data cleansing related activity we can do it, but data weaving from the consumer perspective, they will use Tableau or Power BI. Power BI is the latest version, which is giving more features than Tableau. So that is just for reporting and dashboarding purpose only. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is the course content. So we will discuss about the Snowflake and the key features we already discussed today. So in Monday we will discuss about how the Snowflake environment will set up and how we can log in it and what are the features available in Snowflake. And practically we can see, and Snowflake architecture we can see. We will discuss about Snowflake architecture in detail, and what is shared disk and shared nothing architecture, what is the drawbacks in traditional databases, and the cachings. So what are the caching concepts available in Snowflake? So in Snowflake, so once we pull the data from data storage layer, the cached result, it will stay there for 24 hours. So if we execute a number of times within 24 hours, Snowflake will not charge that many times. Snowflake will charge one time only. Okay, so that we will discuss in detail what are the caching types and what is the difference between each one, and the clustering. So what is the clustering and how the micro partitions will happening in the background, and what is the features of about the clustering and the clustering deep dive, and the virtual warehouse based on the volume of the data, how we can go ahead with the scaling, auto scaling based on the volume of the data, how we can choose the larger warehouse sizes, which means the processor sizes, and for what basis Snowflake is charging. So, and the performance tuning, how it is happening in Snowflake when you compare to other traditional databases, and how the loading is happening in Snowflake, and what are the internal stages available in Snowflake, and how we can load the data from Snowflake from external, from other databases to AWS S3, from AWS S3 how we can injecting the data to Snowflake data warehouse. So how we will discuss in detail how we can create AWS account, how we can create bucket policies, roles derivation, and how we can load a file in AWS S3, and from AWS S3 how automatically the file will get loading into Snowflake data warehouse. So the same way we will discuss about Microsoft Azure side also, and the copy command option. What are the copy command options available in Snowflake and Snowpipe S3, and how file downloaded to Snowflake data warehouse, and the data sharing. So how we can share the data from one account to another. So as I said, the time travel. So how the time travel work, and how, and what are the ways we can travel back to past, and how we can get the data. So those things we will discuss in detail, and how the file save work in Snowflake, and the cloning. So this is the cloning concept. If you want to copy from production data to development table, so for till today all database having for that Snowflake is zero for that. So in real time how the cloning will work, and which cases we can use the cloning, so that we will discuss in detail. And the data sampling is something like this is belongs to whoever is working on analytical area, so those people is required for them. So as a Snowflake developer, as Snowflake admin, this feature is not required. So if you want, I'll cover data sampling also, and Snowflake admin. So in Snowflake admin, how we can create users, and how we can derive the roles, and how we can give the permissions to the different accounts, and which is the best practice to manage and operate and perform the activities, and how we can how we will get to know each and every user how much credit card consumed, so that I will discuss in detail. And if the consumer doesn't having a Snowflake account, so how we can how our approach should be, and how we can share our data to the consumers. So that we will discuss in detail, and how we can apply the security features, and how we can share the data from one Snowflake account to another Snowflake account, and one Snowflake account to non-Snowflake account, how we can. So we will discuss in detail with practical. So every day I'll give you notes, and I'll show you the practically. So it is very easy. Whoever is interested, they can only concentrate on Snowflake admin or Snowflake developer. So whoever keeping your resumes as a Snowflake developer and Snowflake admin, it is highly recommendable, and your resume will be short very quickly. And they will not give both areas as a Snowflake admin or Snowflake developer. Any one area only they will give you, either Snowflake developer or either Snowflake admin. Okay, and we will support you resume preparation and so other things. So whoever having doubts, you can reach out to this institute number so that you will get more details. So now, if anyone having any questions,
Data, I mean, OLTP and OLAP both or OLAP only?
it is both. So basically, it is OLAP,
Okay.
online analytical processing. It is based on depending on usage. You can use it for online transaction processing also.
Issues means first we have to go for OLTP